All right, welcome back to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Go ahead, Anthony. Give us a read before we get to Todd Monken's comments today.
Yeah, guys, every man deserves to know his T levels. Step into games day, Men's Health Solon, and get tested on us. No guesswork, no waiting, just real answers. Go for it, Bull.
There you go. All right, so Todd Monken made his first radio appearance today. This morning, he was on with Ken Carman and Anthony Lima on the Fans Morning Show. And they asked him, obviously, about the quarterback situation. And we'll put up a quote graphic of what he had to say. I would love to have that in terms of
naming the
starting quarterback. I'm not there yet. We've been on the field 3 practices. There's only so many reps you get. You start to target who's going to start opening day. That can change even if someone is going to get 2/3 of the reps or 1/3 of the reps because you're still going to play preseason games. Zach, this is pretty much what he said all along. Nothing really new. Even if Deshaun Watson is ahead, he's not going to admit that right now. Otherwise, he would just name him the starter. But he's been saying the same thing all along. He wants to have a starter sooner rather than later.
Yeah, you get 16 days of practice, up to 16 days when you have a new coach. So 3 are in the books.
Right.
So you're not jumping to any conclusions. You're just really getting started in the next phase.
Yeah.
So what they did is they had their voluntary minicamp. That came after 2 weeks of just individual stuff, just your first time in the playbook. So now they're into phase 2, which is drill work, further meetings. They have some actual practice film to teach off of, make corrections, make installations. So it should be a lot better and start to move faster, but you still have only had those 3 days of practice. And we're still 3 weeks from even getting the next 3 days of practice.
Right.
So like in Casey Concepcion, the next time that will be his first day. Spencer, no, that will be his first day. So it's not just the quarterback. So yes, every day in those meeting rooms when they're in phase 2, they're going with the quarterbacks on things they can go over and look at old film, and Monken's Ravens film, and Deshaun's old film, and last year's and the whole deal. But what they're trying to do with this building, as we've talked about, just the beginning stages, is just there. It's just in the beginning stages. And so multiple players will have the chance to look better and look more comfortable in practice 5 of OTAs. Well, and guess what? It's 30 and snowy today.
Yeah.
Practice 5 of OTAs is the day after Memorial Day.
Yeah. And also, and we love Mary Kay, but her report was Deshaun's the front runner. The front runner doesn't always win, for the record, and it's not a defined front runner equals QB1. Duke was the front runner to win the NCAA tournament this year. Did they win the tournament, Zach? Remind me.
No, they did not.
The Chiefs were the front runner to win the Super Bowl last year when the first initial odds came out. Did the Chiefs win the Super Bowl last year? Remind me. You can be the front runner, and that does not mean anything when you actually get more practice time in, when you get all the reps in, when you actually have to make the decision. The front runner on May 1st is not a surefire bet that anyone, whether it was Shedeur was the front runner, whether it's Deshaun, there's so much that can change in the lead up. And I like what Todd said in terms of, we've had 3 practices. There's going to be a lot more information that I, as a new coach, is going to have to gather before I make a final decision. One person may get more reps one day. The next person may get more reps the next day. That's how we're juggling this thing throughout. And sure, in his mind, is there probably a front runner? Yeah, of course, because there's always, no matter what you're doing. I went out to dinner last night. I thought I was going to get a burger. I saw the menu, ended up getting pasta.
That's right.
The burger was front runner in my head, and then you sit down, you see the new information, you get something else. So much can change. But big picture on the interview, Todd Monken has a hell of a personality. And it is night and day. And really, it was a really good interview by Ken and Lima, by the way. They asked some really good questions. I enjoy listening to Todd Monken.
Don't hype them up too much. Their egos are big enough right now.
I don't know Ken. I know Lima a little bit. But I genuinely thought it was a good interview. I thought he did a good job. And I enjoy listening to Todd Monken. And in the 4 years we've been doing this show with Kevin Stefanski, and no disrespect to Kevin Stefanski, I don't think I ever enjoyed a single interview he did.
Look, we all know where the Browns have been. No one more than me, right? So, having a head coach that can come on the local radio station and do a normal interview and talk about normal things is progress. It's good. It's necessary, okay? Yeah. Deshaun Watson starting a quarterback in 2026 is not normal, good, or necessary. It's just not. I don't know how else to say it. They can't do this. It's counterproductive to the building of a franchise.
It probably is. I mean, I get what you're saying. naming a starter right now anyway would be stupid, especially if he was going to name Deshaun Watson, because, as you said, I think off the air earlier, like, what are the odds he's going to even get through training camp?
Yeah, so we saw one day of minicamp, and frankly, it was jarring to see Watson in front of the lines more.
Right.
But then when Monken was asked afterwards, he said, this is going to go. It's not going to be divided equally. You can't do it that way. He said, but I can tell you the plan was for Shedeur to get the most reps. So the plan is to let the most talented young guy grow and develop. And he said, we're going to mix it up. We're going to do this. It's going to be earned. It's going to be changed. And they did change even in the course of it. So what we saw was one 90-minute practice. We didn't get to see the next two. And those 3 are in the books. It's 3 weeks before there's even the next one.
I said yesterday, Zach, that if Deshaun Watson starts, it tells me all I need to know about what Todd Monken thinks of Shedeur Sanders. Is that true?
That's a fair way to look at it.
Right? Like, you've been saying it. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to start Deshaun Watson.
Right.
The only reason he's going to start is because Todd Monken is like, I can't have this guy run my offense. He can't do it.
Yeah. And real quick, related to that, but not necessarily, I don't know if it's Ken or Line, but one of them asked Todd, the kind of classic, do you like winning or hate losing more? And his answer was, I hate bad football the most. Did you hear that answer, Zach?
Yeah, and he said it consistently.
And he was on the This Is Football podcast with Kevin Clark and gave a similar answer. He's like, I hate bad football. It is a direct representation of me as a head coach. If my team comes out there unprepared, sloppy, it's like more than anything else, I hate bad football. Yeah. And that is why
he's not going to play a quarterback that
he's
going to
play the guy. Exactly. He's going to play the guy, whether it makes sense long term, whether it's a young guy,
but it's still an assumption that Watson could provide good football.
But if that's his evaluation when it's all said and done, every indication that Todd Monken has given us is, and that quote was the perfect example of it, who is going to be on Sunday the guy that can run the offense I want to run as closely to how I want to run it as possible.
Yeah, well, Quinshon Judkins is going to be tired because if their goal is to avoid bad football, then they're going to have to hand the ball off 60 times a game.
Well, they better get another running back here because they don't really have anybody else.
No, they don't.
Dylan Sampson can't carry the ball that many times.
Yeah, Rocket Sanders. There's some promise for Rocket Sanders.
You like him?
Yeah.
I said bring back Nick Chubb. Bring him back.
Look, they hired Todd Monken during Senior Bowl week, which was in January. Yeah. It was a full month from the Senior Bowl to the Combine. It was 2 weeks from the Combine to the start of the player movement period, and it was 6 weeks from the start of that to the draft. If they really are that down on the current quarterbacks other than Deshaun Watson, then they failed otherwise in not getting a viable option. Because the chances that Deshaun Watson are a viable option are slim.
Yes.
Slim.
The chances,
and you're right. You lay it out for what he might be thinking and how he has to view it if that's his true philosophy.
Right.
But what we've seen from Deshaun Watson is bad football. We saw 3 good starts in 19 games over 3 years. We saw the Browns win 11 games and go to the playoffs without him. The front office forced the head coach, who just won 11 games and made the playoffs, to revamp the offensive staff. And Watson came out the next year and was worse and then got hurt again.
Yes. And he hasn't played a full season since 2020.
Right.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
So, and like you said, when he's played, he's been terrible. He missed over a year due to him sitting out and suspension. He's missed over a year again due to 2 Achilles injuries.
And the shoulder injuries, legit.
I mean, what could be worse than leg and shoulder injuries for a quarterback?
Right, and it's an abnormal shoulder injury also. And I'm not trying to play doctor, but that's a pitcher's injury.
Yeah.
When it happened, he was the first quarterback to go through that surgery. Yeah. I'm not sure if someone has happened since.
I don't think
but
so.
he was the first. And we don't even have.
There were no examples to die.
And we don't have a track record of him coming back because I don't believe he's played since then.
Well, no, he hasn't. And plus 2 Achilles injuries, like. Who gets 2 Achilles injuries? I've never even heard of such.
Well, I lied. The shoulder injury was before the first.
The shoulder
Achilles.
injury was 23.
Yeah.
So he came back. He played.
Right.
He was a little bit limited through the offseason, but then he was cleared. And then he played 7 games and suffered the Achilles injury. And then 2 months after suffering the first Achilles injury,
timeline, correct me, the first game he played post-surgery was the Dallas game here, where it looked like his misses were 17 yards into the first
And that's
row, right?
exactly what it looked like the entire summer.
Okay.
Yeah. It's weird.
I'll never forget that last Friday practice before the Dallas game.
Yeah.
It was the weirdest vibe. And we're only allowed out there for 10 minutes. It was the weirdest vibe. It was like, okay, all the good vibes of training camp and optimism season are done. Everybody knew what was coming with that offense. It was the strangest one I've ever covered. And then they went out on Sunday and he couldn't complete
And you've
pass.
covered a lot of bad teams.
I've covered a lot of bad teams.
And yet you've covered an 0-16 team.
Yeah. It was not as strange the year before when he had the shoulder injury, when he ended up missing a game and a half, and P.J. Walker came out of nowhere. Because remember, he was practicing during the week. Yeah. And like that was not as weird a vibe as that specific day was, where it's like, okay, we have to go play a game Sunday. We're going to unleash this offense that everybody knew was going to fail.
And how about when DTR played? We didn't know who was going to play with Deshaun. Speaking of which,
P.J. Walker.
P.J. Walker, Tyvis is heartbroken today because P.J. Walker announced his retirement.
Phillip has provided some great moments for UCSS, though.
Maybe if they had brought P.J. Walker back, they'd have another option right now.
So the P.J. Walker year, they played 5 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And look, Todd Monken doesn't care about history, and Todd Monken certainly does not give one darn about Zach Jackson's opinion or Bulls or Mike's or anyone else.
That's right.
But let's go over the history.
Yeah.
5 quarterbacks the P.J. Walker year, 4 quarterbacks the following year, and 3 last year.
Right.
So do we think that Deshaun Watson's just going to go like this time he has to get quarterbacks ready.
Yeah.
And if they really are out on Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, Taylor Green, or any of them, then they've done a poor job of getting this ready. Because there's nothing in Watson's track record that says he's going to come on, if he does play well, that it's going to last for more than a month.
Zach, who would you bring in the quarterback room then?
Well, I would have definitely gone about it differently. I would have definitely added more experience.
But at this point, is there any veteran free agent out there? Is there anyone you would
Anthony
consider?
Richardson is still available. He's probably not any good at all. Right. I mean, look, if you believe in this defense and you don't have an option, you might have to try to trade for Mac Jones. You've accumulated this extra capital. There's different ways to look at it, and I didn't consider any of them great.
Yeah.
Somebody else's. Jacoby Brissett's probably going to become available. Brendan Sorsby might be in the supplemental draft in a month from now. Like all of these things are out there, but so far they've chosen none of the above. Because Taylor Green is just a straight developmental. He's an intriguing guy that he's going to make your team, and you're going to see if he can get to the level where he can help your team by playing on 4th down or even covering kicks, quite frankly.
I mean, in the end, the best option for the Browns is to play Shedeur Sanders. Let's face it.
I agree.
No matter what you feel about him, there's some people that think he's great already somehow. Some people who think he has a lot of potential. There's people like me who were like, I'm not totally buying it, but there's a possibility. And some people think he stinks. Whatever it is, he provides the only hope on this roster.
Yes. 100%.
Most likely. Certainly at least this year. And even if he fails, then okay, you have an answer. You go get someone next year.
And if it was up to all 3 of us,
if
I'm not speaking correctly, but if it was up to you and you were the decision maker, Shedeur Sanders would start.
Yeah.
If it was up to you, Zach, Shedeur Sanders would start. If it was up to me, Shedeur Sanders would start.
Make it
See
4.
what Anthony, you too?
Yeah, 100%.
And again,
there's
I don't
no
know.
upside to playing Watson.
You don't have to back that up by saying it's a great plan. You can just kind of say it's the only plan.
Yeah.
Right. Again, I think it's under a 50% chance that Shedeur Sanders is the long-term answer for the Browns. I think I said recently 30% or whatever, something like that. But 30% is better than 0%.
You said less than 1% chance it's Deshaun Watson.
Right. I think there's a 0.5% chance Deshaun Watson
if that's the case,
could
then,
become a great player
and
again.
if they believe it's even close to 30%, then it has to be Shedeur.
Yeah, right.
Now, will it be? I don't know.
If Shedeur Sanders,
it has to be.
Bottom line, if Shedeur Sanders is not playing week 1, Todd Monken thinks he stinks. I don't see any other way around it.
I agree with that.
And
so it's like, okay, Todd, but
what are you going to do? You're going to play Deshaun for 4 weeks, and then what? Deshaun's going to play maybe mediocre football, is probably the most likely best case scenario, and then he probably gets hurt.
Todd keeps saying, I understand, to change the narrative to win, to change perception to win, win. Well, like, what we're saying is, how do you expect to win?
Right. Yeah, how do you expect to win with Deshaun Watson? Again, it's not been 1 or 2 years since he's been good. It's been 6.
Yeah.
6 years since he's played at any kind of high level.
That's right. And it's not even that. It's the time away. There's a track record there, right?
Yeah.
It's he came in, he never grabbed the leadership role. There's circumstances that they changed assistant coaches, they changed system, they changed everything. It's just never happened, and it's not going to happen.
No, it's not.